Hello, guys. This is the Day Trader versus Weekly Outlook review for December 21st, 2025. Sorry, I'm still coming off of a little sickness, so my voice is still gone somewhat, but I think I'm pretty much there. For the most part, let me switch over. Today, um, I plan on doing our goal settings for the year. Uh, Going into next year. Uh, you know, I like to think about, a lot. For one, New Year's is my favorite holiday, and I like it because it just brings on the idea of changing, of change and making progress and growing as a individual, as a person, as a family, uh as a trader, growing as a mentor, growing as whatever profession I'm in. It's just like for me, it's just like a reset for me. So I always like, to try to get my biggest reset at the beginning of the year. And I always like to start by, talking about goal setting on my last call of the year. And, the format in which I use to talk about my goals, and I don't have no slides or nothing like that, but I do have the PDF in our group. So if you want to look at this, um, it is under files in the Facebook group, and is listed as 12 week 12 week year participant. I'm gonna go ahead and open it up, and I'm gonna just kind of talk about it from here. And basically, this talks about pretty much like how to set your goals up and how to like get your uh try to break down your goals into like a 12-week cycle. So any goals that you're trying to accomplish, basically figure out what the overall goal is, figure out what the task you need to do to conduct that goal, and then break those tasks down into things that you can do on a daily, uh, a daily, weekly, and monthly basis over that next 12-week period. So I'll send this again in the group, but it's already there, and I'll show you guys again how you can get to it. Um, it's best if you do this from the computer, right? So under file, at the home page of the group, you'll see these little fields. You'll see the little headers, and it's under files, and it's gonna be this PDF right here, 12-week year participant, right? And so this is a way to help you kind of break down how to get your goals set for this year. And we're going to talk about the charts and all that good stuff too tonight. But since we got a short week, and then again, this is the last call of the year, I'm going to be out until January the 14th, I think. I think it'll be the 14th. Yep. First call of the year will be Wednesday, January 14th. That'll be the midweek review for the 14th. So I'll be out, and I just wanted to give y'all a heads up on that too. And I also wanted to let this be the last call we talk about, last thing we go over. And so I'm just gonna kind of go through the PDF a little bit real quick. And so 12-week year concept is basically thinking about a goal that normally people like try to do in, you know, a single year and just break it down into a 12-week sprint, basically, at the the very basic of this goal is again understanding what the overall goal is, what strategies you need to uh break that goal down into smaller chunks, and then what things you need to do to break that break those tasks down into even smaller chunks, right? So, I'm just gonna read through it, right? So the overview for the 12-week year concept. At the execution company, we understand that what may be the most important concept in business is not what you know, it's not who you know, it's what you implement, right? And that how we implement our goals for the year will kind of help us succeed them, right? Because if we don't implement our goals properly, we will like backtrack on it, right? If we don't set ourselves up in the best situation for accomplishing our goals, and we backtrack and we skip a day and we don't know what our baseline is, right? And we talked about this before. We tend to always focus on the overall goal, but we never set our baselines. And this will help us get those baselines set. So great ideas and strategies are worthless unless they are implemented. The marketplace only rewards those great ideas that get executed, right? And what are those ideas, right? These are 5 disciplines that support effective execution and success. They are, what are your disciplines? What are the disciplines that you need in order to get those goals? And so with this worksheet, I would actually print this out. And in this particular example, they ask you to fill out what are your top 3 goals that you want to accomplish this year. What are the things that you need to do in order to be disciplined in those goals? Like what kind of things that make this goal important and how to break that down. What are the 3 principles and what are your 3 principles that are the foundation of a high performance? And that could be anything, how you interpret that. But what are your principles? And for me, I like to focus on, and I think I still got this written down somewhere. Hold on one second. Um, Hang on one second. Hang on one second. Um, where did I list this at? Where did I put this? Okay, so one of the things personally like to keep as, like one of my main principles is right. It is, and it might sound a little morbid, but it's just when I die, I want to make sure I'm dead, meaning that I gave everything that I have. Make sure you're not on this planet just existing. Make sure you're living life to its fullest, right? So I want to always like make sure that like whatever goal I'm trying to accomplish, whatever I'm trying to do in my life or whatever it is, whether it's trading, whether it's, teaching, whether it's, you know, working out, small little goals or whatever. I want to make sure that I'm pouring all of my effort into it. Like, so, what are your principles? What's your motto? Like, I want you guys to find out, like, what is your motto? Like, so that way, anytime when you start lacking, you can remember your motto, right? You can remember what you stand for, remember your principles, remember why you're doing what you're doing, right? And it keep you in line with what you're trying to do, right? Keep you in line with your goal, right? Envisioning the future. Big thinking always precedes big achievements. Our vision of the future will profoundly shape our destiny. Winston Churchill said, "The empires of the future are the empires of the mind." We create things twice, first mentally and then physically, right? So how do we envision ourselves accomplishing our goals? How do we see ourselves uh, after we go through different stages of our goals, right? What do we see ourselves doing after we pass our first challenge? If we doing prop firm trading, what do we see ourselves doing after we make our first $1,000 on our new account? Like, what does that look like mentally? You know, what do you envision yourself feeling at that time, right? And try to, in a lot of goal setting, a lot of people that I've studied of late, they try to say, make your dreams and make your visions about your goal as vivid and real as reality. And like when you go into thinking about your goals for this year and you know try to set the try to almost take yourself out on a date with this, right? Get some money, right? Get $100 bill, you know, and smell it, right? Smell the money before you start to think about your goal, right? The next time you're on a plane, you know, steal one of the little pamphlets out of there, because maybe that's one traveling more is one of your goals that you want to add on to it, or it applies to something that you want to do, right? And then just feel that paper in your hand, what that pamphlet feel like, what it smell like, or if you do take a trip, you know, bring some sand back, right? And just touch that sand every so often, man. So you remember that, hey, I was in, like, I'm gonna go to Thailand, right? Maybe I might take some sand back from there, or maybe I might bring one of my favorite desserts home. It might go bad, but like, I just want to keep something that keep me in attached to that feeling, or, if it's something less tangible, like, okay, if it's something like, spending time with your family, like, right? Change your phone screensaver to a person that you want to be closer to or affect more, and how that leads you to your goals, right? So try to put yourself as close to those feelings of your goal being accomplished as you can, right? Because that helps it become more of a reality, right? Because it's got to happen in your mind before it happening in real life, right? It's essential that we think about, dream about, and ultimately envision our future. A compelling vision provides meaning and direction. People with a vision can overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Holding a clear picture in your mind of the desired future will mobilize your creative efforts and generate the desire and energy to perform, right? By us envisioning our goals even more, right? We'll have that extra oomph, the extra energy we need, that, that last push that you need to get you up out of the bed sometimes, right? Because you've seen yourself with 12 funded accounts. You've seen yourself already make a make a payout request from every one of your accounts before. So, and you know how much, you know what it feel like already to have your account get hit with 12 deposits from Apex and Top Steps, right? And I I think Kim, my old mentor, my friend now, I think one time she had us like write a check to ourselves, right? Or take a bank account. And I did it too once before. Like, I went online and I found this person's bank statement, and it was like $1 million bank statement or something like that. And I used Adobe, and I whited it out. I put my name over all of it, and I would like keep that in my phone. I think I still got it too, somewhere on my phone, right? But no, it's on my Facebook. It's on my Facebook somewhere, and I can go back and look at that if I need that, So do little stuff like that, right? All significant accomplishment begins with someone daring to think impossible. So often we sell ourselves short. We aim well below our potential. You you can do far more than you've ever dreamed or imagined. You are currently surrounded by breakthrough opportunities. Put aside the doubts and the fears, claim the future. At this junction, knowing how you're going to get there is not important. What's important is knowing where you want to be. Once decided, you can determine the best route and the appropriate tactics to get there. For now, focus on the future. The indispensable first part is getting what you want in life is decide what you want, right? So again, right, we reiterating like what are those goals? What are we looking at, right? Right? Have, do, be. What do we need to have? What do we need to do? And what do to be what we want to be? Again, this is just means to like help you decipher what your personal journey looks like, what your goals look like, you know. Um, what are your long-term goals? What are your aspirations, visions for a 5, 10 year, 15 years into the future, right? Same thing with your 36 within 36 months. What's your age in 36 months, right? What is your vision 3 years from now? What do you want to create in your personal life and in your business with your spouse, with your family, your health, spiritually, socially, financially, intellectually, emotionally, in your lifestyle, you know? Um, what do you want your income to be? What do you want your customer profile if you want to have customers, a customer based business, if you want to have a service based business? What does your service offering look like? You know, what does your marketing plan look like in the future? You know, if that's where you want to go, what's your value offer? What's your staffing look like? Do you uh do you plan on having any strategic partners? Like so a lot of people say, you know, if I would I pick $5 million or have lunch with Jay-Z? Like, is Jay-Z worth meeting for you? You know, or is Oprah somebody you need to meet? If Shaq is somebody you need to meet? Um, those kind of things, right? What does your time off look like in the future? Like, what does your work day look like in 36 months? Like, are you still working at the same job? Are you still uh, trading part time or are you trading full time? Are you running your own business at this point? You know, what does that next 36 months look like for you, right? Okay. Building a 12-week plan. The purpose of the plan is to define what we would take to get you there. If your vision is the what, then your 12-week plan is the how, right? Remember that planning can be great fun. The process of thinking through and then setting out what it will take to reach your goal creates positive emotion and energy. It also makes your vision seem more attainable. You begin to shift from possible to probable, right? What's the difference? What's different with 12-week planning, right? Again, what's different with 12-week planning is because you get to see every phase, right? You get to see the big picture, the midterm, the short term, and the micro goals that you need. And that's why it's important because a lot of times when we plan out our goals, we just say, hey, man, I want to make $1 million, right? And that's where we leave it, right? We don't say, right, I want to make $1 million, but I don't know what time I want to get up in the morning, right? That's an issue, right? Because you don't even know how you want to start walking towards that goal, right? So, starting with the end in mind, right? Here's a sample 12-week plan, right? This is somebody's goal, right? Let me go to it. I'm gonna try to zoom in on this page, right? And this is how I want you guys to kind of go and approach the same thing, right? So their 12-week goal for the period of 9/30 with September 30 to 2012 this old. So this will run from September to December, right? Achieve 6,000 product production credits and acquire 1 million under management, right? Whatever that is for this person. The first goal is to achieve 6,000 product production credits, right? What tactics do they need, right? Schedule and conduct 2 3 hour prospecting blocks each week. schedule 10 appropriate appointments per week, conduct 2 client reviews every week, develop a prompter list, develop a list of 6 to 8 CIOs, meet with a minimum of 1 CIO per week, get 3 referrals. Ask for referrals at all opens, presents, close, conduct 8 appointments per week, and get 5 new, right? So this is something they want to do each week, right? And this is also something they want to do each week. This one as well. This want to do it, every 3 weeks. This one they want to do this week one, right? This one they want to do each week, right? This one's gonna begin with week one. All of these, same thing. This one's gonna end at week 12, right? And then they're gonna have this form to check it off as they go through. And then same thing for this next goal, right? Acquire 1 million under management. This is something they want to do first week, right? This is something they want to do each week, and they want to begin this in week one. This is something that ends at week 12, right? Personal commitments, right? They want to work out. They want to do one date night. They want to read the Bible daily. Again, all things that help them to get towards that goal, right? Um, so 12-week goal, this is where you want to be at the end of 12 weeks. It links to your vision. You may have multiple goals, but just remember the less is more. The more you focus your plan is the more effective it'll be, right? So this isn't like for covering 10 to 20 different things, right? This is one of like once you figure out what your top goals are, this is where you want to like break those down, right? Which one of your goals is going to have the most effective outcome for you? Which one is going to take you into a new shift or shift your mindset and change you to a new direction or a new trajectory, right? The tactics, right? This is how you will accomplish each goal. For each goal, you create tactics or actions that you will take in order to achieve your goals. How the plan is structured and written has a huge impact on your execution. Vague or poorly written goals and tactics will hinder effective execution. Likewise, a well constructed goal is clear and precise, thereby making implementation easier. And so they break it down by a weekly basis, and what you'll do each day or what you'll do each week. I also recommend again setting like your minimum too, right? Because again, we talked about this before, right? Sometimes you can't give 100% to something all the time. Sometimes you have to only give 10%. And what is your 10%? What is your 1%, right? So what is 1%? So what is the 1% thing that you can do every single day towards your goal? Figure that out to a minute level, right? Plan the plan criteria, right? There are 5 criteria to adhere by when writing a plan, right? One, specify, and it must be specific and measurable. Everything we do, we need to know how we can put a number towards it, right? So if we are doing something like going to the gym, you can just count like, all right, I've gone to the gym every single day, or like I told y'all before, like I use my Duolingo and as a micro goal, right? And as long as I do that every day, I count towards me, right? And again, setting those micro goals, like we said before, those micro goals will help you build your discipline, and it'll help you understand setting your minimums, right? State it positively. Focus on what you want to happen that is positive. As an example, rather than quit smoking, you would become a non-smoker, right? It's the same goal, but written in a positive way, right? Realistic stretch. If you can accomplish the strategy without doing anything different, then you probably need to stretch more, right? So if this is something that you don't like, if the goals that you're coming up with, right? If you think you're going to be able to do the same thing that you've been doing, to get these goals, then that means you need to build on that goal more because it's not it, right? So I know that, right? I teach on Sunday, I teach on Wednesday, and I look at my charts every day, right? Every day I look at the charts at least one time. But what I know that I can do differently is I don't mark up my charts every single day, right? Every single day I need to spend a dedicated hour or so to actually not just look at the charts or look at what's going on, but to actually think about the setups, think about what happened the day prior, and like actually spend time to review my charts, not just glance over them. So that's one thing for me that I know that I can do, right? Um, that'll be a good change for me, right? And then accountability, right? Individual accountability is critical. Everyone's challenge is no one's challenge, right? So this is why I'm presenting this to you guys as a group, right? We can hold each other accountable, right? We know that we all here come onto the call often. We use this group as a way for us to help us learn how to trade, but it also can be used for us to become accountability partners. I can't talk a lot about what happened in Belize, right? But in Belize, I went on this mastermind trip with a group of black business owners, right? And this group of black business owners are people who I've seen start making, seven figures a year, right? The full purpose of this meeting and this trip was these people who were making seven figures a year are now trying to go into the atmosphere of how can I make $25 million a year, right? So me being able to be in a room with those people and not just, you know, these are black young people who are, close to our age, making plans to make 25 million a year, and some of these people I know, they've already made over 25 million before over a course of time, but now they trying to see how I can do it in a year. This is despite all the stuff going on in the economy. This is despite going on, with our president and with the, with pending with we possibly might be going to war. These people are still in the mindset of growth, right? And that's what I got from being at the mastermind. This is what I got from being around those individuals, right? And these aren't just like people who are just and not to downplay any of them, right? They're all smart individual, but I can say that I know mentally you guys are in the same place that they are, as far as how creative you are, as far as how you think. You can be doing the same exact things, right? Like I can hold my own in a room with people that are talking about making 25 million and still be able to offer them advice, still be able to help them plan through their stuff, and they can still see that I add value to them, right? And just as I can also be in the room with these same people and learn from them and be able to take things away from them and use them in my own atmosphere, in my own to around my own group of community of people. And these are people like one of the people that are in the group, he owns the same type of community that I'm running right now and doing the same exact thing that I'm doing right now, but he charging people, he and his partner are charging people 10 and 12K a year to be in the program. And when I'm doing this for free, and it's not a shot at myself or them, but it's like just being able to be in a room with people who who I know that I can talk in an equal plane with, that I can offer just as much as they offer, or I'm in the room with somebody that has a patent on a diesel part and they making 10,000 a year, 10 million a year off of making parts on a car, or somebody that owns uh 120 commercial and residential properties throughout Atlanta and bringing in 40 and 50,000 a year off of, so it's like holding each other, and they meet all the time, right? They meet multiple times out of the year, right? They do weekly calls, they do daily calls, they do co-ops, right? Where they help people within their community, right? They schedule, events with each other, right? So that's kind of the place that I want to go with us. I feel like we have the means to be in that place because, my knowledge, the couple other people knowledge, like Shanika, I know, Trees, I know, like, Anna, she's not on the call, or Lady, he's not on the call, but like there are people who I know that have more than enough knowledge to be top-notch traders to handle whatever goals that they trying to accomplish, whatever that case is, right? So we got to hold ourselves accountable, right? Time bound. There's nothing like a deadline, right? We have to stick to our deadlines because they're there to drive us, not just to be a mythical thing that we have in what that looked like, right? So for the 12-week year, and if we start our 12-week year, our 12 week would be January, start January 1. Our first 4 weeks will be January to February. Our next 4 weeks will be February to March. Our next 4 weeks will be March to April. Next 4 weeks will be April to May. So our first slate of our 12 weeks will be January to May, right? So that give us a January to May, well, basically the end of April, but January, let's just say January to April, April 30th, that gives us our first 12 weeks. And what does that first 12 weeks of the year look like, right? How does that first section of our 12-week year look like? Let me see what somebody said in the chat. Shanika, those conversations hit different. Mindset game is so caliber, right? That's 100% true. Tree said she agreed, right? Then Shanika also said, still remember having the experience being in a room like that. Make up, make up your game ASAP. Yep, exactly. All right. Being in those kind of rooms always help you see the bigger picture, right? And it help you to understand, like, I'm no different from these people. I'm no different, right? I got the same resources. I got the same, I wake up with the same crust in my eye that they do, right? Um, Mind mapping, that is just kind of like just how do you think about the goals that you're trying to accomplish, right? And then now we would go into starting out figuring out what our goal one will be, right? All right, so hold on. What that first goal will be, right? Ultimately, uh the 12 we go to ultimately my vision for the period ending, it'll be April 30th, 2026. I will do whatever goal number one. I will do whatever goal number two. Do whatever goal number three. Then it'll be goal number one. What are the tactics you need to do? And again, this only talks about the tactics, right? What those tactics will be and how the when you'll start those tactics, right? I say also give your baseline as well. So I would add tactics slash baseline on here, right? What is your what is the tactic that you want to use to approach towards these goals? But then what is the minimum you'll do as well? So if working out is going to be one of your goals, right? And you say, I want to make sure that I go to the gym for every day for 5 days a week, right? I will accept as long as I go to the gym for 30 minutes. That's my minimum, right? So what is your tactic and what is your baseline? I don't care if I go to the gym for 15 minutes, right? Or I do a brisk walk outside for 15 minutes. As long as I do that, then I have checked off that goal. I mean, that I've checked off that tactic for to meet my workout goal, right? That's something that you can quantitate, right? That has a value towards it, right? That has a number you can count, right? I can count on my hands how many times that I went to the goal. And again, we talked about this before when we talked about our baselines, right? Are you happy with yourself if your goal was to go to the gym every day for a month, right? And what if you there were four different scenarios I gave y'all, right? And I don't remember exactly what it was, right? But just in a nutshell, right? If you plan to go for 30 days in a row and you only went to the process of I'm just planning to go to the gyms for 30 days in a row versus I went once a week. Are you happier with yourself if you just plan to go for 30 days or if you just went once a week? Even though you didn't meet the 30 days, right? Even though I didn't meet the 30 days, I still at least went once a week. I still at least went one time out of those weeks. So out of those 30 days, I went four times, right? It didn't get you to your goal, but at least it showed you you can do it at least sometime, right? What if the goal was 30 days and you only went three times a week? Three times four, 4 weeks, that means you went to the gym 12 times in that month, right? It's still getting you closer to that goal, right? So as long as you have a minimum, you still are working towards the goal, right? You just got to figure out what the minimum going to be. Same thing, repeated goals, tactics, effective time use. If you are not in control of your time, then you are not in control of your results, right? That's just a phrase, right? Time blocking. Time blocking. Benjamin Franklin said that if we take care of the minutes, the years will take care of themselves. The challenge is that throughout our week, things come up, stuff that we didn't anticipate that eats up valuable minutes. Trying to reduce these things is sometimes more frustrating than dealing with them. The key to successful time use is to not necessarily in eliminating these unplanned interruptions, but in regularly blocking out time to focus on strategically important items, the blue chips. That goes back into what I was just saying. What are our minimums? Time block what our goals are, what are our tactics are going to be, and then what are our minimums. Performance time is a system that utilizes time blocking to maximize your effectiveness. There are three primary blocks: strategic block, buffer blocks, and breakout blocks. Strategic blocks. A strategic block is a 3 hour block of uninterrupted time that is scheduled in advance. During these blocks, you accept no phone calls, no faxes, no email, no visitors, no nothing, no anything. You focus on all your energy on the pre-planned items, the strategic and money-making activities, right? Doing so concentrates your intellectual and creative and produces breakthrough results. You will be astounded by the quantity and quality of the work you can produce, right? Strategic blocks. And what give yourself an example of what that looks like for you, whatever your strategic blocks need to be. Your buffer blocks. Buffer blocks are created to deal with all the unplanned items that arise throughout the day. Nothing is more unproductive and frustrating than having to deal with constant interruptions throughout the day. We've all had days where unplanned issues dominated our entire life. A buffer block is a block of time set aside in advance to handle the unexpected. For some, 30 to 60 minutes once a day is sufficient, right? For others, two separate 1 hour blocks may be necessary. By grouping together activities that tend to be unproductive, we can reduce the inefficiency and take back control of our day, right? So our buffer blocks, what are those going to be, right? And what does those tasks look like inside of the buffer block? Then our breakout blocks. One of the key factors contributing to performing plateaus is the absence of free time. So often, entrepreneurs and professionals get caught up in working longer and harder. This approach is an energy and enthusiasm killer. In order for us to achieve greater results, what's necessary is not more hours, but on the contrary, it is more free time. A breakout block is a minimum of 3 hour blocks of scheduled time that is devoid of any work related activities and thoughts, right? It's time scheduled away from the business during normal business hours. This is time, this time is designed to refresh and rejuvenate, reinvigorate so that when we return to work, you can effectively focus, right? So what does that look like for you? That's what this basically asking for you, right? What are your breakout activities? What do those look like? Your the time blocking concept can be used more than just strategic buffer block. The more you can structure your day, weeks, the more effective your execution becomes. If possible, schedule routine tasks on the same day at the same time each day of the week. Also consider when you tend to be at your best. Are you a morning person? Are you better afternoon or in the evening? Schedule the important activities during these times. Strategic and money making activities like your strategic block and coaching sessions, right? This is an area, Tree said, this is an area I struggle with consistently blocking out time to work on execution of my goal. We got to do this. And the more we fight it, the more it's gonna hinder us, right? And that's just all I can say about this. But then here's what just a sample of what that looks like. Um, Process control and scorekeeping. This goes into why I say we need to quantitate like everything that we do, right? It needs to be something that we can see like that we've grown in, right? That can count. At this point, you have created a compelling vision, a vision to achieve your personal and business objectives. Now the work begins. Having a plan is one thing, effectively implementing is another. This is a stage where most people struggle. Installing a weekly routine is a secret to effectively implementing your plan. So the weekly routine consists of three elements. Your your emotional cycle of change, right? And the three elements is you plan your week, what your time looks like, what your blocks look like. Plan your week. At the beginning of the week, you will create a weekly plan that contains the action, tactics, and things that are due in that particular week, your overall 12-week plan. The weekly plan is such a powerful tool because it simply and effectively translate the entire 12 weeks into a more manageable and focused and daily week action. And the last thing I wanted to touch on, I'm gonna let y'all. This is the end of it, right? I'm gonna let y'all kind of go through this. I'm gonna send it again. I'm gonna drop this again. But in the mastermind that we did in Belize, this is what they were doing. Those people that were planning out their $25 million weekend, right? This is what they were doing. They went through this process to break down their 12-week years for the entire year. And they actually had the person who wrote this book come in and speak to them, right? And he came in and he went over all this with them and helped them go through this. I'm not going to go through any more of this because I want y'all to kind of go through this on y'all own. And I don't want to like kind of leak any of my thoughts into this, but I want you guys to kind of like take this, grab it, go through what you are um, getting ready to do for this 2026 year, break down what your main goals are, break them down, get your end dates, get your tactics. And, I really believe that, you know, this will help us out this year because I think that we have to be more and more decisive with our time, with our effort, and with our energy because really that's the precious value. Like our time, our energy, our effort. That stuff is leaving us quicker, you know, much more intentional, Much more intentional, y'all. So whenever you want this book, again, I think I can drop it in this chat. And it's in the group. This is the workbook. I also think I have the actual book in here too. This is just a workbook. Let me search. Pretty sure I have it. 12-week. Year. Yep, I think I see it right now. Here it is. This guy, Brian P. Morin, he came and spoke. So um and this is also a workbook too. But if you want to get the book, that's the person who wrote it. This just give you more examples of how you can fill out the workbook. So let me find this one, and I'm gonna drop this in there too. So we are going to okay. Yeah, let me just drop this in here too. Yeah, print this thing out. Good job, Trees. This is both of the versions. One of them is this one, that the last one I dropped out. It's a more detailed version and it has more examples in there. So like if you need some help figuring out. And again, I know that it only says tactics here, but I also want you to do what your baseline is as well. Not just your tactics, but what is your baseline for each one of your tactics as well, because we need the baseline because we know we're not robots. And if we were robots, then we could just go in and plug in a program and just say, hey, just run at 100% all the time. And we wouldn't have to worry about those days that we didn't perform at a 100% because we never have those. We would always perform at the 100% that we were programmed to do. So we are not robots. So we have to account for the days when we are only functioning at 10%. And we can't take those days as shortcoming days. We just have to accept that that day we're going to only be able to function at 10%. And if we're only functioning at 10%, how can I pull 1% out of myself towards my goal? That's the way you want to approach that, right? All right. So now I'm going to go to the charts. And before I do, I'm going to open it up. If anybody got any questions, comments, statements, any thoughts, any opinions on anything that we just went over. Going once, going twice. So, all right. So, charts. Okay. First of all, this week gonna be a short week, right? We are going into um our Christmas New Year's week, and we only have pretty much we only have Monday and Tuesday that are probably gonna be clean days, right? We'll probably get something on Wednesday too, but Wednesday is Christmas Eve, so it might not be a lot going on Wednesday. And then the markets are open on Friday, but it'll probably be slow as well. Who knows? But the predictable days that we know we might have some money float will be Monday and Tuesday. Then on Monday, We don't have any news on Monday, but on Tuesday we got 8:30 news. We got GDP, which we need to pay attention to. We got and that's prelims, core, and durable. So we need to pay attention to that for sure. Then we got consumer confidence um, at 10 a.m. So after the 8:30, so we'll have a lot of things to focus on Tuesday. We'll have the 8:30 news window. We'll have 9:30 open, and then we'll have the 10 o'clock candle. So there should be three different trade setups or an opportunity at three different times to take a good trade on Tuesday for sure, right? And as far as GDP, they're expecting it to come in lower than the previous forecast. Well on core, a lot lower on core and durable. They're expecting consumer confidence to be slightly higher. And then we got manufacturing numbers. They're expecting it to come in on the downside, but not as far down as it was before. So keep those in mind. Then on Wednesday, even though it's Christmas Eve, they still gonna release the unemployment claims, which is normally given out on Thursday, but Thursday is Christmas. Unemployment claims, they're expecting it to be lower than the previous month. Here's the thing, unemployment claims are on the uptick because now the numbers are starting to come in from all of the Doge layoffs. And our unemployment rate is as high as it's been since 2021. It's even higher for all of us black folk. So just know, hey, it's hard out there for the average person, but it's even harder out there for us. So we have to make sure that we do what we got to do to stay afloat, right? So I think the average, I think unemployment rate was 4.6, I think. African American unemployment rate is 8.3 or 8.9, I think almost up, double what the average is. So that's why we got to lock in. We can't let these folks tear us down, even though that's what they're trying to do, right? No news, um, no news on Thursday, bank holiday, Christmas. Then 26 is the day after Christmas. Expect low liquidity, low volatility on this day. So we should have, if we do get a move on Friday, it'll be low liquidity. I'll even go into what to same thing going into the week after that. The week after that, we got week after that, right? So this is the 29th. Pending home sales on the 30th. We have ADP job claims, FOMC minutes. That should be what drive us on the Tuesday following. Then on the 31st, that's New Year's Eve. We got unemployment claims. No data on what that is going to be forecasted as right now. Then we have uh, January 1st. That'll be New Year's Day. No market open on that day. And then we may or may not have low liquidity going into Friday the 2nd. And we don't have our ADP non-farm. It won't be an NFP weekend. NFP will be the week after, right? So I'm gonna just go ahead and go in up until the time when I get back. Up until the time we get back, you see, we got PMI on the 5th. That'll be at 10 a.m. We got some decent news. We got Jolt's job on the 6th. ADP payroll, so that goes into our NFP week and PMI. And then we got our non-farm payroll. We got our NFP on January the 9th. And I'll be back going into this week. I'll still probably drop the charts on Sunday in the group on the 11th, but I won't be on the call. I'll still probably drop the charts. That'll be the first time I drop charts. It's gonna be on the 11th. I'll actually do the call on Wednesday, which will be a good call because that'll be the CPI day. All right. As far as earnings going into the week, I don't think we got a lot of earnings coming up. We shouldn't anyway. Should be light on the earnings, but we'll see. Yeah, it looks like no earnings actually. Yep, most anticipated earnings week of the 15th. So this is the 15th. Hang on. Do they got it up yet? They changed the way it's look. 19, 20. Monday is the 22nd. Yeah. So no earnings for this whole week and the week following. There's one company. I don't know if we need to worry about them though. So that's how we looking for the week. So nothing. Um, only stocks I own this is still just kind of dwindling right now. Neo is still sitting around this gap. Nvidia is still sitting around that low. Let me go to it. Nvidia still sitting around that 175, 180 area. And I'm actually hoping we take out this high because I'm not adding on right now, but I do want to see us take out this high because I still want us to take out this 200 level before. I might add some down here tomorrow or into the week. I don't know yet because I kind of want to take all my money that I'm free that I have right now and use it for my trip. So yeah, I'm gonna treat myself so I won't be adding no more. But if you guys want to, it's a good level to be adding around this gap right here. And we still pretty much near it. We just only like $5 or $6 off. And even if you buy on the open next week, we still should be, on Monday, we still should be somewhere near this 180 price point. And again, overall goal is to get back at this 200 level right around here first and then take out this all-time high. But I'm not, I'll share this chart, but that's kind of what I'm looking for this. And this more of a long-term setup on NVIDIA. Right now, AI is having a little trouble. They've been talking about a bubble with AI, and NVIDIA is kind of taking the brunt of it right now because it's been stalling out. So it's been stalling out a little bit, but that's about it. Then we're gonna look at dollar. Here, dollar. For dollar, I'm looking at I want to see us come back down and retrace into this inverted fair value gap right here. So this 0 to 1 move on the downside, where we got this move that we're already starting to make 0 to 1. I want us to come down into this range. And if we're gonna do come down into this range, I'm expecting us to have some type of rejection back to the upside for a 1 to 2 push, right? And if this 1 to 2 push holds, then we can see our move to the upside come from here, right? But this gap that we traded into from a daily, this daily price gap, if we trade through this and then back below, through and below this area, we could do a 1 to 2 retracement, and that could set us up for a 2, 3 move to the downside where this liquidity is at risk right here. So again, what that'll look like is the 0 to 1 down to this inverted fair value gap. we possibly could bounce from here. If we bounce and we start a new move, we should get um our whole setup down here, and then we can take the buy from here. But if we get in the buy and we can't get above this high, the we can't get above this price gap from the daily, then that could be the start of the move to the downside, where we do our 2-3 move below this low. Same thing if we get down here, there's an order block down here, and that's where I'm expecting us to sweep this low, trade down into this, take the liquidity, and possibly get the 2-3 ending somewhere down here, and maybe even down to this price gap right here. And if we do, that means we get a 3-4 bounce. And the 3-4 bounce should or could give us another buying opportunity from here. So if you do take the 3-4 bounce, again, we would have traded through this inverted fair value gap. That's probably going to start a 4-5 move to the downside. So keep that in mind if we do come into that area, that if we do take the buy from here and we can't get above this, that this is going to be the start of our 4-5 move. But I would be expecting our 3-4 possibly to push us up. If we just push up, like we could hold inside of uh this price gap range, right? We could hold inside of here, right? If we do, that could negate this, and then we get a 0-1 move to the upside to take out these highs right here. Actually, we got equal highs on the 1 hour right here, pretty much. That'll be a draw on liquidity. These are previous day highs. And that'll be kind of where we need to look for liquidity to come from to get swept from here. That'll be like what we want to look for. I'm going to make this a little bigger. So this is where our money resides, above these highs, if we decide. And now, if we come into this area, that puts us inside this 4-hour fair value gap. And then if we get inside of this 4-hour fair value gap and we hold, this 0-1 should take us at least to the above these highs to the middle, right? And in the middle, we should get some kind of 1-2 rejection where we see a bearish candle right around this middle. And if we trade above that, that should be the start of our next move to go higher for a 2-3 move higher. And if we get that 2-3 move higher, that should take us out of the fair value gap. And that would invert this in fair value gap. And now this could be used to go up. So this is where I'm going to be looking. Either we push down, we know what we need to look for and where we need to look for. If we push up, we know what we need to look for. All right. Any questions on that? Nope. Makes sense. Okay. Drop the chart. So if primarily I'm expecting dollar to push down, that means I'm looking for gold to push up. Most cases. We actually already have done so on the open, right? Didn't even have a chance to go over this, but so this is the 0-1 move that I'm usually referring to, right? And this is a good example of what I've been talking about with y'all over the last couple of weeks and reiterating over the last couple of weeks. And I'm glad this actually happened. Because you see this high we just took out? When we took this high out, what's to the right? We have huge up candles. And we got a fair value gap right here. We got a fair value gap right here. We got a fair value gap that's being formed right here. And every time we see a valid change in direction, we want to see that a high or a low get taken out with a fair value gap, because that gap is implying that it's a lot of money being pushed in that particular direction. And in this case, it's to the upside. So, because of that, that means that they need to come back into this area at some point and they need to rebalance the price inside of this area between our 0 to our 1 move, right? And that's usually why we get stuff like this. So there's a high, this is a low. When this low took out this high, it made a continuous, like 2 sets of fair value gaps. Price made a new high, it came back down in here, tapped, and then we went higher. This is where we want to look for that entry, right? So now that we seen that we got our 0 to 1 move, now we kind of expect for us at some point above this high or this high to get our 1 to 2 retracement. Our 1 to 2 retracement should be where we get our entry from. And really, our 1 to 2 could come down probably, I want to say about right here. Because this is now an order block right here. So maybe coming down as low as this level, right around 42, 43.86 level. And then we can see if we can get an entry for our 2-3 move higher. And then we look to take out the all-time high. Sorry, y'all. So we already took out previous week high. That was our draw on liquidity. Our next draw on liquidity is the all-time high. So, and likely before we take out that all-time high, I'm gonna make this a little shorter. What is this? 25, probably right here. So let's say this will be right around where we make our high, plus or minus 10 to 20 points. So this high that we're at right now, if we don't just go ahead and take out this all-time high, 40 through 44.25 is a nice area to expect some rejection. And maybe we get our rejection back down between now and Wednesday till right around this 43.86 area, and then we can try to look for the buy from there. Oh, snap. Hector on. Dang, bro. Dang. Buddy on. What up, bro?
What's up, man?
What's going on? All right. So, um, like I said, we already got our 0 to 1 move. Look for your retracement for the 1 to 2 move. If we get that, we know we can take our 2-3 move above the high we make out of this run, back above the previous week high. We already took this out, and then possibly above all-time high. If we start to get sell-off, right, we probably won't get this 0 to 1 move. So that means that we'll need to look for our sell-off from a different perspective, right? So let me get rid of this. We don't need that because we've already evaporated from that move already. So if we were to get a sell-off, that sell-off would have to come at our 0 to 1 or at our 3-4 sell-off. And if this becomes a valid sell-off, if and only if we can trade through whatever fair value gap that we make here. We already got a couple, so we don't even, this is out of the question at this point. If we were to sell off and take out these lows, this is the next area where we can look for buying inside of this fair value gap right here. Same thing over here, right? Worst case scenario, if we were to sell through this low, I would expect us to take this low and trade down into this fair value gap. Worst case scenario. However, if this 1-2 sell-off happen, it's probably just leading us back down into a fair value gap that we got right here. which we can probably see even better on the 4 hour because it's looks a little better on the 4 hour. And so once we get the next candle open, we should get our fair value gap that'll probably look something like this right here, where that'll be where we expect our 1-2 retracement to happen. So I'm not going to draw this on here, but be looking at the 4 hour. So we're going to get our fair value gap for gold off of the 4 hour. And our next 4 hour candle on gold will be the 10 o'clock candle, which is in 30 minutes. So once we get that, that'll be where we get our fair value gap from. And we'll know once we get, and I want y'all to do this tonight, draw your fair value gap on gold because on the 4 hour, because that's where it's going to give us our fair value gap. And then you'll know where the 1-2 retracement and maybe even the 3-4 retracement could happen. So overall, this is what I want to look for gold. Since we already pushing up, we already bullish, we're going to look for our buys on gold. And if we do get a sell-off, we don't need to be looking for heavy sell-offs unless we start to get below whatever the fair value gap is that we create on the 4 hour. And if we do get below that, then we can expect for price to come into this area. So that's what I want to see on gold. Does that make sense? That makes sense? Everybody?
Yes.
Plenty of sense, bro. Plenty of sense.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let me drop this. Hector said he looking for a drop on gold. Can't look for a drop on gold till we see a buying dollar. Until we see a buying dollar.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for that to jump close to the 100 range, and that'll make that shit drop. But until then, staying in the 98 zone is not.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So this is YM. I was supposed to have this chart marked up, but I didn't. But it's all good. So this is our daily chart. This will be good too, because for the new people, this is what I would be looking for to mark up my chart, a fresh chart. So first thing we notice on YM, on Dow, is we got a gap. So this where Friday close, this where tonight open, and we got our gap, right? We already came halfway into the gap. It's a gap to the upside, it's bullish. So that's the first thing, right? The next thing we'll notice is on Friday, we did not take out a high. We did take out a low. So the question is, when we took out the low right here, what did we do? We traded back inside of a candle. So we kind of were 50-50, right? So we took out a low, we didn't take out a high, but we closed above the previous day high. We closed above the previous day close. And now we got the potential to gap. And when we gapped up, we got the potential to possibly take out this high. And maybe even this high, right? So my bias on this is somewhat bullish on YM because we've shown that when we closed on Thursday, we closed all the way back down here. We took out the low on Friday, but then when we took out the low, we traded back into the range of Thursday candle. When we traded back into the range of Thursday candle, we never closed below this price. And we actually closed higher over here. So this is telling me the bias should possibly has the highest probability to be upside bias, right? So that's how we got to break down our charts, right? And then just for another look, if we look at the weekly, right? Last week close, we traded inside of the previous week candle. This the previous week candle. This is the low. That's the high. This the low of last week. This the high of last week. We traded inside of the candle. So we really technically just ranging, right? We just tighten the range up a little bit. And that means that we probably won't take out this low. We may not even take out this high, right? We may stay inside of this candle, right? Anything we get out of the monthly, nothing. We don't get nothing out of the monthly pretty much. Because again, we took out the last month high. We didn't come near the last month low. We closed. We're actively still in this month so far. So we can't say that we're bullish or bearish, but we are trading above the last month open. So that's our bullish bias right now, right? Going into the 4-hour chart. On the 4-hour. Again, we got our gap from the daily. We got these highs. These are going to be relatively equal highs. And we kind of got like a couple trend line, like a trend line going right now. But these are our relative highs that we got, that the first highs that we got as potential draw. So that's where our money is right now. That's where, let's throw this one in there too. That's where we got to focus, expect for price to go. From a downside target, we got this low. That's our closest low that we have on the downside, which is not far off because we just opened up into that, right? But what do we have that is right here? We got we got a fair value gap right here. And it's overlapping this gap. So when I see that, that's telling me it's not a very high probability that we're going to go too far to the downside. And this right here is telling me there's an order block right here. That order block is somewhere around 48,339 area. Go to here, there's the order block right here. So that's telling me that even if we do sell off, there's some levels of support that are right below the current price structure. So for now, got a nice little range, right? The questions we gonna ask are, how do we operate within this range? This is Friday high. Right? We got this order block. We got some equal lows, relatively equal lows here, and we got the monthly. We bounced off the monthly. We created a fair value gap here. We traded down into the fair value gap. We held it, and then we pushed above this high. When we pushed above the high, we made a fair value gap. We left an order block. Price gapped up. And now we set a high here. We set a low here. We're trading inside of this. Does this, all of this combined information, give us a reason to hold up price? So first thing first, this is where we closed on Monday. So on Friday, right, we already gapped up. I want to know, if our 0 to 1 holds this and then comes back in this range. And then if we hold this and come back into this range, do we go higher? Hold this area to take out our next high back at 4,900. So my up move on this is going to look like this. I'm expecting us, we already gapped up, to take out this high, possibly trade back into the gap, then go higher to take out these highs. And then we take out this high. We use this area that we just made as support for our 3-4 move. We hold it and then we push higher, right? That's what I'm going to be looking for. If for some reason our 0 to 1 can only take out this high and then we do a 1-2 retracement, if we do a 1-2 retracement and we can't hold this move, that means that this 1-2 retracement could likely take us at or below this order block, right? We get our sales from there. If we see that we get the setup from our 1 and 2 sell off. But I don't really want to look for sales unless we do something like this. We get our 0-1 from here and we use this to set us up for the next sell off, right? There's something right down here, little gap. So that's what I want our sell to look like. I don't want to touch the sell unless we invalidate these levels that we last left, which is this fair value gap, this price gap, and this order block. We need to be below that to take confident sales. So if that's the case and we get our 1-2 retracement below this, that's when we know we are likely looking to sell off and take out these lows. And take out the money that's below this low. Other than that, the same thing could happen at the 3-4. We could get a 3-4 move that trades us down below that, but I'm not going to add that move here. And right now, I just wanted to focus on this. And then the other scenario is we could get our bounce off of the 1-2 move if we hold around that order block and this fair value gap level, because this is overlapping right now. So because we got this overlap, we could do a couple things around this area. So that's why I wanted to emphasize on that. So that way y'all can see what and why we might have a couple of situations happening. That makes sense? If not, I hope so. If not, ask me a question. If not, we can go over it again. Just let me know. I can go into further details. I'll take silence as capiche. I'll take silence as interpretation. I'll also add too, we could be bouncing at the 3-4 because we right by the monthly. And we could come down here and bounce off the monthly one more time too. So that's also what I would look for as well. The monthly opening price. But because we're so close to making a new all-time high on YM, on Dow, I'm expecting us to make this new all-time high. at some point. At or around the year opening or right before the new year. So that's kind of why I'm still also expecting us to make the buys up, because I think that they might want to put a new all-time high in before we go into the new year. So I hope that makes sense. And Dow would be the first one to make the all-time high. And then after that, you can expect for NAS and ES to follow. So, that should be what we expect on this. So Dow will be first, then NAS or ES will be next. I think ES is the next closest to making the all-time high. So it should be Dow, ES, then NASDAQ. Same thing on NAS. We got the dollar, and we got the daily chart. We got the gap. The gap open up to the upside. Upside gap. You can already see we got a
Sorry, Corey, can you drop your chart?
I did.
Oh, there you go. Thanks.
Yeah, it was just taking a little long. We got in Q, we got this engulfing candle. We should expect that if we got this on the daily, we probably not gonna take out this low. We probably should become, worst case, we come probably back down into this candle right here on the worst case scenario, right? We'll go to the 4-hour. Same thing over here. We got a fair value gap. We got one right here. So already setting the stage that we probably won't be going too much lower than this. This is our daily price gap right here. We're gonna possibly have to come back into this at some point. We already gapped up on the open. There's another fair value gap right here. This is on the downside. And we at the middle of this, right? So now that we at the middle of this, we got the monthly that's going through this. Here is a huge order block right now. We're not gonna draw that though, but that is an order block. So the question is, how are we going, since we already opened up, we took out this high right here. Now we likely get some type of response around the monthly. And then if we do, that's where we already got our 0 to 1 already. We need to look for our 1 to 2 move so that we can see if we're going to get our 2-3 move higher. If we get our 2-3 move, that should take us above whatever the high we make right here and above the monthly. And then our 3-4 should be a retracement to see if we're going to hold this and then get our 4-5 move higher. So since we already determined that we are pushing higher because we gapped up on the open, that's what that's going to look like, right? Then with this scenario, again, it's similar to what we mentioned on NQ. I mean YM. The only way we look to trade this on the downside at this point is if we get underneath this fair value gap, this bearish one, and underneath this order block right here. So our 1-2 move could give us a sell-off. Our 1-2 move could give us a sell-off, but the probability is low now, right? And maybe you take your 1-2, your 0, you maybe take your 1-2 as the sell move to the downside, but we need to make sure that we're below the gap before we start looking for sales, right? So if we take this sell at 1-2 for the sell, right, it need to look something like this. This need to come with a catalyst though. It can't be just taking a random sell, because if we taking sales at this high or this monthly, we need to see rejection through this gap in order to validate that this is actually a good sell. Because if not, then this is just a normal 1 to 2 retracement to set up the 2 to 3 buy. Same thing if we get up here at the 3-4, we could also get a sell off from here. And then you can look for this move to the downside from this area right here the same way. But again, that sell needs to be validated before you can take it below this gap. You can't just take the sales from this. And if you do take sales from the 1-2 or the 3-4, it needs to be with a short-term target. Okay? Got it? Capiche? Thumbs up.
Got it.
Okay. This is NQ. But for the most part, we need to be looking for buys because it's already gapped up higher and it's already given us what we need to see to go higher. It could range. That's the other thing. All these could range because next week there won't be a lot of trading. So it could just go sideways. We could gap up and then we just go sideways. And that's a possibility. But overall, if we see buying, this is what we kind of need to look for. Then the last chart is ES. And again, we looking similar to the rest of the indices where we pushed above this high and this high. We gapped up. We took out another high. We right below the monthly. So we got our opening, new week opening gap. And go to the 4 hour. We got a fair value gap. In this case, this fair value gap right here is the one I want to pay attention to. We on the 4 hour. This is our next high. This is where we are likely going to take out the next level. This is a previous day high. And this high sitting inside of this 4-hour fair value gap right here to the downside. So now, and this high is sitting right around the middle. So this line up with us definitely potentially coming around the middle up until about this previous day high for sure. Right? So this setup gonna look just like NQ. We already starting to see that we are headed higher. We already see that. And we already see there's an order block just like we just had and one right here. Right? We already see that, right? Daily price gap. We already see that. So our 0 to 1 move, we already in the middle of that. This high is our draw liquidity. So at least at or above this high is where I'm expecting this 0 to 1 to go to. And I'm saying that at or above because we got this middle of this fair value gap to deal with. So I'm just going to say maybe at the high. Then we get our 1-2 retracement, maybe back into the gap. And then our 2-3 takes us above the high. If we haven't already taken out this high already, and we go higher into this fair value gap. And then we see a 3-2, 3-4 retracement, and then we go higher for our 4-5 move. And that'll be to the upside if we haven't gotten this already. Right? Again, we could just go sideways, right? Then if we look to sell, we will get a sell at our 1-2 move or our 3-4 move. And if we do, we can take this for a short-term target for sure. But we need to know that if we get into this and this 1-2 move happens, that's also potentially the start of our sell-off. We don't need to be looking for sales, major sales, until we get a 1-2 retracement to the downside below the price gap and below this 4-hour fair value gap. And then we can start looking for major sell-offs, right? So that's going to look something like this. And this same sell-off could also happen at 3-4. But you're going to look at it the same way. The only thing is now, that means your downside target is probably higher, right? This would probably be the downside target if we sold off from a 3-4 move up here. So you could literally take this and copy this and put it on the 3-4 move. And that would basically give you your downside move if we sold off from there. But for now, this is what I would be looking for. Then we got our 5 target up here where we got relatively equal highs all around here as our 5 target. And then right above that, right above this previous day high is the all-time high. Right here. And that's why I say this is likely the next one to take the all-time high, because we closer to this one than we are on NQ. Dow is the closest, then ES is the next closest, and then it's NQ. So that's why I think SP, S&P will be next. Make sense?
Hey, Corey, I do have a question about your fair value gap that you marked up on the gap.
Uh-huh.
I noticed
On which
you
pair?
on this one right here.
Okay.
How come you did it at the top and versus the bottom? Like
Hold
the
on. Hold on. Let me paste this right quick.
Yep.
So you talking about, so this is the
This one.
this
Yeah.
one? This is the price gap right here.
But how come you did it not at the bottom of when the price opened for
So
the
I
day?
got the gap from the daily, right?
Oh, that's where I went wrong. Okay.
Yeah. So this
I
where
did
it
my gap
closed.
on a 4. Okay, gotcha.
This where it open over here. So that's where I'm drawing the gap from here. But a lot of people, it's a debate, how you draw your gap, right? Because if I'm on the 1 hour, the gap is actually here. Open here. That's where the gap is here.
Right. Okay.
If I'm on the 1 hour, smaller, right? But I tend to go with what the higher time frames say first. That's where I'm getting it from. So my gap that you seeing right here is off of the daily chart.
Daily chart. Okay.
There is nothing wrong with you saying, hey, I'm gonna use the 1 hour. You just gotta understand that the 1 hour could be the move, or we could be responding to the daily as well. But at the same time, if we got it drawn from the daily, or we got it, let me show you. If I'm drawing it from the 1 hour, this is it right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And take note, right, of this. If I broke this daily down into 4 levels instead of 3, I'm gonna make these clear.
And it's funny because you look at the day, and I usually look at the 4 hour, which is between both the hour and the
It would be the same thing though.
yeah.
So first, let's look at the 1 hour block gap, right? The open is here. The close from Friday is here. The open is here.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the daily, right? This price level, which is at the 0.5, at half of the middle. So first thing is, every time you look at a gap, there's 3 levels you need to look at. You need to look at the low, the middle, and the high. And then inside of the low, middle, and the high, there's half of the middle and the low, and there's half of the middle and the high. Those price points are always going to have something happen at each one of these price points. It's always going to be, let me get my little marker thing right quick. Price. It's always going to be something happen here, 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 and here. Every single time you look at the charts, it's always, and even inside of this level, even if we broke down to 1 hour, there's going to be a low, there's going to be a quarter, there's going to be a middle, there's going to be half of that, then there's going to be a high. Every single one.
Do me a
even
favor,
if
Chance,
at the
put it
1
on
hour,
the 4 hour and see how where it lines up at.
yeah, I'll go to it. If we go to the 4 hour, right? The 4 hour is pretty much the 1 hour. There's the low, there's the open, there's the close, there's the open, and it still line up the same way, right?
Yeah.
But what you got to take into account is if I'm gonna use the 1 hour, the 4 hour, or the daily, the middle of this lines up with the quarter of this. The low of this lines up with the quarter of this. The middle of the 1 hour is almost at the middle of the daily. So there's always going to be some kind of overlap, regardless of how you look at it. And it's just up to you, right? Because if we looking at the 1 hour gap, we already halfway almost came down into it, right?
Right.
But look at where the bodies are. The bodies almost came to the half of the 1 hour and the 4 hour, but they stopped at a particular price. The particular price that they stopped at is 69.01 area. The low on this candle
That's the
is
4 hour.
the the low on the low on this candle is 6900.25. The low on this candle is 6900.75. The low on this candle is 6900.75. And the quarter on the daily price gap is 6901.25.
Mm.
So you could say we reacting from the 1 hour halfway point, the 4 hour halfway point, or the daily quarter point of this price gap. And it's still going to line up because price is always fractal. Everything you do on the daily, you're going to do on the 1 minute, all the way down to the 1 minute. Everything you do on the daily, you're going to do on the weekly, you're going to do on the monthly. It's just going to look a little different, but it's still going to look the same in some kind of way. That's a little gem for you to keep for all y'all.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, it's gonna look the same but different, but
Yeah.
it's just how you interpret it. You still gotta interpret this as if I come down into this, I should expect some kind of buy-in if it's still bullish. If it sells off, I don't need to look for sales until we get below these levels
Know it.
and start seeing price change direction, change market structure. So that is a good question. That's some good things to consider.
Thank you, Corey.
Um, and that was the last chart. And this is the last call of the year of 2025. We will be back for the midweek review on we'll be back on Sunday, the 11th of January. That's when I'm gonna drop the charts for the first time of 2026. I'm gonna drop the charts for dollar, gold, ES, NQ, and Dow. And then the first call we're gonna have is gonna be January 14th, which is the Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. And then we'll go into normal cycle where we have Sunday at 4 p.m. or 8 p.m. I don't know. Did y'all like the 8 p.m. on Sunday or 4 p.m. better? I don't know. Maybe we can talk about that. Whether we like the 4 or the 8 better. Because today we did 8 p.m. and more people showed up at 8. So I don't know. Maybe we need to do at 8 p.m.
Hey, I'm gonna be on regardless. I
Yeah.
like the 4 p.m., but I'm gonna be on regardless, Corey. I'm gonna
Okay.
make it.
Okay. Okay. Either way, we'll figure that out at
Yeah.
some point. But it'll still be on Sunday. It'll be on Wednesday. And then Go through your 12-week year. Make sure. Shanika says she like 8 p.m. All right, we'll do a vote. I'm gonna do a poll in the group. Um, 8 o'clock does kind of seem better because that means that we don't have to think about what time. We could do 7:30 and at on Sunday and 7:30 on Wednesday. So we know that on each day that the time is gonna be at 7:30 on both days.
Yeah, I like that.
So
Yes. So you
that's
know it's
probably,
always 7:30.
yeah, always that actually is probably a better approach. So I will put that as a high priority change. So that'll make sense. So 7:30, Shanika, that's good for you too. You said 8 o'clock, so 7:30 is 30 minutes above 8. But anyway, um, so we will do 7:30 for 2026 across the board. All right. Again, if you don't have the 12-week year book, let me drop it again. I'll drop both of the workbooks. We'll hold each other accountable. And go through this on our own time. If y'all want to share this, we can go over this. That can be our first call of the year. We can go over this and make sure everybody get their stuff down packed. And we can talk about how we can help each other get our goals accomplished. Going into this next year. If y'all want to do that, we can do that to start the year off. If not, y'all shy, y'all don't want to talk about it. That makes sense too. But take the time to go through this, go through the workbook, go through the goal setting, and then let's work on crushing it, Let's work on crushing it. Like I told y'all, I think that we all got the capability of being a great trader, being a great mom, being a great person in the gym, getting all our fitness goals, our financial goals. I think we all
Period.
capable of doing that. And I think that the more intentional we are about it, the more disciplined we'll become. The more disciplined we become about it, the more consistent we'll become. The more consistent we'll become about it, the closer we will get to getting these things that we want. So, on that note, I'm gonna open it up one last time for questions. And if anybody got anything they want to say or question about, here's your chance. If not, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy
Happy
birthday.
New Happy New Year, everybody. And I'm looking forward to working with us all through in the new year. So,
Right.
Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody as well.
All right,
all right.
y'all. I'll see y'all.
All right. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Okay. And I'll drop all the charts in the group and then I'll post the video.
Okay. Thanks, Corey.
All right, y'all. Later.
Thanks, everybody. See ya in the new year.
All
Peace.
right. Peace.